said, oh, right, that's very exciting, okay, yeah, sure. Instant activism. And then he said, well, I've got to warn you, there's going to be a lot of drinking. Much like this evening, there's a 15-year-old party member. I thought, yeah, I'm in the right party. This is exactly where I need to be. This is momentum. And he then said, but I've got to warn you, after a few drinks, there'll be a bit of a row. I said, what do you mean a bit of a row? And I think, sort of sensing my nervousness, he then said, don't worry. There'll then be a big group hug and a song. And I suppose at this stage I was about to kind of tear up my membership card and leave. But being a sort of a polite uncle, I said, what sort of time do you want me to come along? He said, well, it doesn't really matter, it'll just be me and you. So, like a thunderous like this, and there's like more than me and Alan in the room, my heart sings. But look, the reason I'm here tonight is that you are just like you're like a famous Labour Party. People love you all over the region, all over the country, and you've got such important progress to make in the local elections coming up. And I was talking to regional office earlier on. I said, look, what are the kind of key messages that you want me to kind of put across tonight? Because I'm a professional and I kind of do my preparation. And they just said, can you just tell them how fantastic they are for being the first party in the West Midlands to select the next parliamentary candidate for the next election? Hey! And you've hit a home run. You've selected the best PPC in the country. So please welcome up to the stage, Debbie. Come on up.
Oh, gosh, Debbie.
The next member of Parliament for Rugby. You're going to get her there. So there's like a really, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a very tight grid tonight. It's just like times down to the second. So I'm going to cut what I'm going to say short, and I'm going to hand the floor to the next Member of Parliament for Rugby.
Because the lights are down. So can we turn the lights up just a little bit, please? Somebody must know how to put their lights on. Yeah?
Hit the dimmer switch.
Because there are some really important people in the room and I need to be able to pick them out from the crowd. Because, this evening's come together through a lot of teamwork, some excellent teamwork. And we've pulled in a few favours to get the people on the stage that you've enjoyed this evening. And they've come along because other people have done kind of nice things for them in the past. And what goes around comes around. So you've all had a lovely evening now this evening, haven't you?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
So now this is where we get to ask something of you. Amongst your numbers in this room, there are some absolutely amazing people. They are your candidates for the local elections on May the 3rd. Could we get them all to their feet, please? Oh my goodness. Who would have thought that we've got such talent here now waiting to take on our Tory councillors in the local elections? All they need are your votes. All you have to do is go out on May the 3rd, put an X in a box, take as many of your friends and family along to do the same, and these guys can be your local councillors, and boy will they make a difference. We're running in all 14 wards this election. There are some that we think it's going to be a bit tougher to win. But we've been out on the doorsteps, haven't we guys? Yeah, we've been out there, we've been knocking doors, and people are so hungry for change. I can't tell you. Even people who have a long history of voting Tory because their parents did it are beginning to realise that actually that's probably not a very good idea. So they're prepared to go and put the X in the box for our candidates on May the 3rd. That's what we need you to do, and that's what we need you to get your friends and family to do. That's what all this is about. So thank you very much for getting behind them. Thank you very much for enjoying the evening, and thank you very much to Liam Byrne for coming along and having this message. And the merch table is now open.
So, I salute you. You are a phenomenal party. You've got some phenomenal candidates. And, you know, politics is a life of many ups and downs. There are many drawbacks. Malnutrition is not one of them. But there are times when you're kind of wondering what you're doing. And if you are ever in those kind of moments of self-reflection about why we're in this party, why we march on, the thing that struck me walking in tonight was listening to these incredible young people, the Milleniums. And I was listening to that incredible talent and creativity and energy and genius. And you know, whenever I'm in doubt about the future of our country, I go and listen and I talk to our young people. I tell you folks, this generation we've got coming up through the schools and colleges and universities of our country, they're going to change the world. And they need a government that is on their side.
Yep.
And that is where by listening and talking and just being so inspired by our young people. And you know, right now, they don't have a government on their side. Young people today are going to be the first generation in a century to be poorer than the generation that came before them. They're going to have a student debt that on average they won't pay off until their 50s. Out on the streets they live in, they've got crime that's going up and fewer police officers knocking around. The pension system isn't there in the way it used to be. The NHS isn't there in the way that it used to be. When I talk to, you know, my parents' and grandparents' generation, they did incredible things in this country and it helped this country do amazing things. And that is what we've now got to do for our young people. And so look, we now have, as a country, we're at a fork in the road. And we can take one route, and that route is more and more years of Tory leadership. But I have to tell you, from where I sit and stand in the House of Commons, the tempo of Tory politics now is not set by, you know, old decent Tories. It is set by those who went to the most expensive public school in this country. And I don't know about you, but I don't think David Cameron, Boris Johnson and Jacob Rees-Mogg are the right leaders for this country.
No.
Now, Jacob, I don't know about you, I like to kind of keep an eye on, you know, what's going on inside the Conservative Party. There was a poll this week. It said, if Tory party members are given a choice, are they going to make a big leap into the future? No, they're going to make a leap back to the 18th century and elect Jacob Rees-Mogg, the MP for the 18th century, as their new leader. Now, Jacob, I don't know if some of you have seen this, he's just about to start a phone-in show on LBC.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Yeah, I think he calls it the show for wireless telegraphs or something. You know, the idea that the future of this country can be in the hands of people like that, I'm sorry, we're just not having it. So, what we have got to do is turn the page on this government. This is a government that has now put half of world wealth in the hands of just the top 1%. Now, the research I'm publishing on Sunday shows that if the trends continue, 2/3 of global wealth will be in the hands of the top 1%. That is an economy of moral failure. And it was brought home to me at Christmas. So, like many of you, one of the things that really horrifies me at the moment is the unbelievable rise in homelessness. And you see it in Rugby, and you see it in Birmingham, and you see it in London. You know, we go into the House of Commons through Westminster Tube. Whenever we go in the morning, there are 3 or 4 people now sleeping in sleeping bags outside the Mother of Parliament in the world's 5th richest economy. I tell you, friends, it is a moral scandal. Now, you won't have heard necessarily of Paul Williams. So Paul Williams was a man who, he was one of those people that we all know about in our lives. He, you know, his brother said he had a heart of gold. He would always give his last pounds to someone else. rather than spend it on himself. And on the last Sunday before Christmas, on the doorstep of a restaurant opposite the Borough, he was found cold and unresponsive. And later that morning he died. Paul Williams had been sleeping rough for months. He was one of 5,500 of our neighbours, of our citizens, who now make their beds on the pavement. And this is in a country where we have had the biggest increase in the number of billionaires ever in our history. You ask anyone in the Labour Party, who is your neighbour? The answer for us is simple. Our neighbour is anyone in need. We believe, as it says on our membership cards, that we achieve more together than any single one of us can achieve alone. That means that sense of compassion, that sense of comradeship, that sense of solidarity, it runs through every single one of us. What's extraordinary about events like tonight is that every single one of us has taken a different path here. Every single one of us have had different life experiences, different things that have happened to us, different ideals, different inspirations that triggered us at one point in our lives to say, I am going to do something about this. I'm going to take personal responsibility. I am not going to walk on by. I'm going to join this party. And so all of us are so different here tonight, but we share that one idea in common. We will take responsibility for making change happen. There's an old quote, I think actually from Martin Luther King, who said, "The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice." Well, the people who bend it towards justice are us. They're the people in the Labour Party. They're the people with our values of compassion and solidarity and neighbourliness, people who are prepared to look at injustice and say, for this we will not stand. And that is why politics right now is so important. Now, Clement Attlee, as we all know, was the Labour leader with the best haircut in Labour history. And at the end of World War II, he made his final election broadcast to a weary nation that was hungry to win the peace. And he said this. He said, we now in the Labour Party call you. We call you to the great adventure, not of winning the war. We now call you to the great adventure of civilization, where everyone, no matter where they come from, everyone can live free from the fear of want. These are the values, friends, that we share. These are the values that drove us into the Labour Party. These are the values that drive us to stuff envelopes and knock doors and make phone calls and get elected. And you here in Rugby are leading the way. Do well in these local elections, and then if you wouldn't mind, could you please get Debbie elected to the House of Commons? Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Stay strong in the faith. We are going to win.